I'm going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And good evening, everyone. Next on the agenda, we've got the minutes from the August 1st meeting. Do we have a motion? Oh, by the way, and September 5th, sorry. Do we have a motion on those meetings?
I move that we approve the minutes of both meetings.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So we have two applications tonight. I just have a question for the audience. If I could just get a raise of hands. Who's here for 800 Goshen Road? Okay. Notre Dame? Okay. Do you mind if we flip-flop your order? We want to have a short meeting for Goshen Road, which will become apparent once I get started. But other than that, I wouldn't do it other than that. Are you all ready, or are you? Because I don't want to do it if you don't have everybody here. So.
We don't have everybody here, but I'd like to raise one situation.
Steve, excuse me, I'm going to recuse myself on this.
That's fine. Thank you.
John Snyder from Saul Ewing for the applicant. We've been advised that the Board of Commissioners has authorized the solicitor to file a declaratory judgment action on the issue of the developability of this lot. With that in mind, then, to have parallel issues, methods of litigation of that particular question proceeding on two different rails makes no sense. And so we intend to grant an extension of this application pending the resolution of that process by the township, so that it can proceed with that and then with the application. So from our standpoint, now having been confirmed that the township is going to file such an action, I'm advising you that we're granting an extension. So we're not prepared then to discuss further tonight the issues in the letter, because we think that it all ought to follow the course that the township has chosen for it to follow, the declaratory judgment action and then the continuation of this application, depending on the resolution of that.
So it's an open-ended, not open-ended, but it's an extension until resolution through the courts.
Yes.
Thanks.
Steve, if I can cut in on that.
Yes.
I would advise that you not grant that extension at this point in time.
You don't, it's not a request for an extension, it's a grant of an extension. There's nothing for them to accept or deny.
You don't have to act on it.
Excuse me, I would like to hear council's side of this, so we're fully advised of the procedures and we don't accidentally step in something by granting or giving away or agreeing to an extension, okay?
Sure. Well, at this point in time, I would advise the Planning Commission to effectively deny this application. Okay, you have the ability to do that. There is case law there's appellate case law that states that when there is at least one ordinance reason or issue with the plan, you have the ability and the right to deny to recommend a denial to the Board of Commissioners. In this plan, you do have that right, you do have that reason. There is a big reason in here, and it pertains to the open space issue. Under Saldo, I think it's 255-43C2. So that's a big reason for the board to act and deny this, deny its recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And that's what we're advising you do, that you deny the plan tonight.
Just to make it clear, we're not asking that you accept or take any action on an extension. We're granting an extension. That's what you do with it then is up to you. I can tell you that on the issue of this being open space, the Board of Commissioners in 2005 revised, filed, and signed and approved a plan that made it clear that it is not. So obviously, if the township elects to turn us down on that reason, we'll defend it vigorously. If the township intends to file a declaratory judgment action with that, we will defend it vigorously. We have an approved, signed plan by the township. The Board of Commissioners debated it and discussed it and voted on it in 2005.
Well, obviously,
Yes,
there's some
thank
sort
you.
of,
Excuse me.
it's obviously some sort of a disagreement on that point. I would recommend that we follow our council's advice. I'm seeing that indication in some communications, and I would suggest that that's exactly what we do. And I would make the motion if everybody so agrees.
Second that motion. Second that motion.
That's okay, Smoke.
Yeah, right, thanks. And before we do vote on that, is there any public comment? I mean, just to summarize for the public, basically what we're going to do is we're just going to pass on this whole thing. We're turning it down, we're going to pass, and it's going to go into the courts, and the courts will have to decide who's right, who's wrong, at which time, if the courts decide in the township's favor, it will not come back to us. If the court find in the defendant's favor, then it will come back to us. Please proceed.
Thank you. And I guess you haven't voted yet, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get your name and address?
Yes. My name is Judy Sherry. I live at 725 Governor Circle, Newtown Square. And just before I start, for a public meeting to be open to public participation, it has to be advertised correctly. This meeting was scheduled for Monday, October 3rd in the minutes. And it was also scheduled in notices mailed out to residents for Monday, October the 3rd. And the homepage does not alert people to the fact that this is changed. So my presumption is that there could have been more participation if it had been advertised correctly, and somebody dropped the ball on that. My comments tonight are about the proposed 3-lot subdivision of Lot 9 on Goshen and Darby Paoli Roads.
Excuse me just a second. So I guess it was our hope not to have lengthy public comments tonight because we're going to turn it down. Mm-hmm. And if it comes back, then there'll be time for that. And other than that, it's a matter of the courts making a decision. But if you feel a need, then go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to be on the record for this again. This is a proposed subdivision of a land parcel that was promised to neighbors as open space and promised to the township as open space, because this promised open space was fundamental to getting approval for the development of the 8 Montparnasse mansions built on dramatically steep slopes. At last month's Planning Commission meeting, Mr. John Snyder, attorney for Mr. Holloway, is quoted in mainline media news as saying the following, quote, "Don't think you have some people here trying to pull a fast one," said Snyder. Respectfully, Mr. Snyder, some people trying to pull a fast one is exactly what this proposal looks like to neighbors and township residents that have been following this issue for years. And quickly, on August 1st, I said, I strongly urge the Planning Commission to deny this application to subdivide Lot 9, the 9th lot of the Montparnasse development, into 3 residential lots for the following reasons. 1, prior promises, engineer drawings, recorded land development plans, and sworn testimony at the March 1998 zoning board by the developer, Cass Holloway, that this lot would be dedicated for open space. This fact was a critical consideration, as I said before, for the approval of the other 8 building lots, which are all located on steep slopes. 2, steep slopes. 3, stormwater. 4, the close proximity to Darby Creek. 5, safety, the ability to respond to emergencies and the danger of accessing Goshen Road right next to the bridge. Since the approval of Montparnasse almost 20 years ago, Mr. Holloway has repeatedly tried to have Lot 9 converted to a building lot. It was wrongly suggested that this meant he wanted to establish the land valuation for tax purposes, not because he ever intended to build on the land. I've spoken publicly about this a number of times. For example, in January 2005, when I was running for election, I stated publicly my opposition to the development of this parcel because of the environmental issues like the ones I just stated. Again, in 2012, I asked that the zoning board refuse to grant Mr. Holloway any additional relief on Lot 9 and uphold Radnor Township's zoning officer's grading permit application denial, dated April 5th, 2012. Planning Commission members, these issues are crystal clear. There is historical documentation that this land should be preserved as open space, and there is the geographical reality that this land needs to be open space. Montparnasse homes are perched way above this parcel on the left, and Darby Creek is below it on the right. Please uphold the recommendations of the Township staff and the Delaware County Planning Department, among others, and deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional public comment?
Very quickly. My name is Chandler Hosmer. I reside at 804 Gaylor Road in Radnor Township. I was on the zoning hearing board in 1998 with Ms. Bogosian. I know the record speaks for itself, but I do recall clearly and quite distinctly, because the property and issue is close to my own home, that space was to be preserved, as open space. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, then I would like to just be a little more specific about the motion, so I'll make a motion. And that's based on applicants, I make a motion that we turn down the application based on applicants' claim that the 1998 record plan doesn't require Lot 9 to be open space. I make a motion to recommend the denial to the Board of Commissioners based upon subdivision and land development section 255-43.C2. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Academy of Notre Dame.
Evening, Nick Camelia, representing the Academy. The proposal here this evening is for a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics building on the campus. You'll see that there's no intent to increase enrollment or anything of that nature. It's basically a new, what we're calling a STEM building, you know, the initials of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics on campus. We have Judy Detweiler here from the Academy, and she'll discuss to some extent the need for this building on campus, and in particular, the need at all women's schools for this type of math and science building. And Judy, let me see if I can find you a mic.
Good evening.
It should be on.
Let's do the test.
Good evening. My name is Judy Detweiler, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Academy of Notre Dame de Nemours in Villanova. I'm pleased to represent the Academy on behalf of our president, Dr. Judith Dwyer, who is currently attending our Board of Trustees meeting. We look forward to working with Radnor Township to make a new center for STEM education a reality at Notre Dame. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics projects that by the year 2022, employment in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics will increase by more than 1 million jobs over 2012 levels. While interest in STEM careers has risen among teens in recent years, interest among girls has diminished, and the gender gap in STEM interest is widening at a significant rate. Recognizing this opportunity to help prepare more women to choose and succeed in the sciences, the Academy of Notre Dame de Nemours has already taken steps to establish a rigorous STEM-based curriculum. We're committed to providing a STEM program that will enable our students and graduates to be successful, innovative leaders in fields where women are consistently underrepresented. A significant challenge to the full realization of a comprehensive STEM curriculum lies in our lack of a modern facility that will offer our students the space necessary for design, experimentation, and collaboration. The current science facilities are disjointed, with laboratories in 3 different areas. 2 of the 6 laboratories are 30 years old and in need of structural redesign. In addition, more lab space is needed to accommodate our expanding curriculum and provide permanent workspace for our growing robotics and independent research programs. Opportunities for faculty and staff to collaborate are limited due to the current configuration of our science, math, and technology spaces. Notre Dame's proposed Center for STEM Education will provide students and faculty with a state-of-the-art learning environment with mathematics, chemistry, biology, physics, robotics, and environmental science classrooms and labs in one dedicated space that will inspire and prepare the next generation of women to become compassionate leaders and creative innovators. Thank you.
And just to orient everyone here, I don't know if you need orientation, but we'll provide it anyway. Here's Sproul Road. Here are the ball fields on Sproul Road. Here's that entrance at the corner here, and the mansion that we're all familiar with is located right here. As you go down Godfrey Road from the intersection of Sproul, here's another entrance, ingress and egress, or actual ingress and egress to campus. And the STEM building is in this location here, well within the setbacks, for the site. And a little bit, as I said, a little bit behind the mansion. Most of the activities on campus are right in this area, and this would be on the side facing Godfrey. We have absolutely no issue with any of the comments on here. Perhaps the one that would be addressed is the one from Ray Daly talking about fire safety. And I'll just turn it over and maybe we can discuss that.
Hi, I'm Brian Madsen from Mominy. We're the engineers for the project. So regarding the emergency access, one idea that we had come up with as a possibility was coming up through this existing driveway. An emergency access could be brought off of this driveway, and it could either loop back down to Godfrey Road, or we could have an emergency access that looped back out to the driveway before coming out this way.
Yeah, and we're certainly willing to accept any condition on emergency access that would require the approval of the township for it. We feel confident that something can be achieved here that's going to satisfy everybody.
It's a little difficult without looking at the grades to see what your options are as far as emergency access, but if you're confident that you can make something work, would you be looking at something like a grass paver type situation?
Yes, it'd be a grass, a pervious surface.
And you think that area there where you're pointing out is probably the best for the grades to work?
Right. Yes, and we'd be willing to work with the township or the fire department to come up with the best solution.
Okay.
Regina, it looks like it's probably going to have to come in from this area here. Looking at the grades.
And this is going to come back for final,
Yes. Yeah, this is
so
just a
we
preliminary.
can
Right.
deal with that at final, right?
And you're prepared to do the long-range development plan, which is...
Yeah. Yeah, we should have had that filed. I'll show you, I'll hand up, we know what it is, and we just didn't have the written analysis. I was told by Judith Dwyer today, who's president of the school, that we should have it in a couple weeks, but I'll hand up what the,
And how about the height of the building? Do you know what that's going to be?
I know it'll be less than 38 feet, which is, what is permitted by code. I don't know, do you have any idea on the height?
I don't know if the design is complete
Nick.
yet, but it will be less than 38
Susan
feet.
walked in. So it's your intention to comply with all the
Yeah, we'll
comments?
comply with all the zoning requirements. We're already in compliance.
And by the
with
time you get to
everything.
final, you'll have a little bit of your architectural work done.
Yeah, we'll have
Okay.
architectural work done, we'll have the long-range development plan done. And I'll just point out to you, I've handed up a couple things, and actually, most of the items here have already been done, and it's just refurbishing current buildings. Currently, like, for example, the athletic fields, as you know, that was a phase one, that was done. The landfall reconstruction and renovation, that's been performed. The mansion renovation is being done now. If you've ever been in that mansion, it's a gorgeous building, and there's some renovations that need to be done. The STEM building's what we're here for this evening. The Conley Arts Center, that was a renovation that's been performed. The Coverly Hall, that was a renovation that's been done. The Harron Family Building is a renovation that has been performed. And then in a phase three, and we're talking about 8 and 9 here, we're talking about probably, if it's going to be done and has not been approved by the Board of Trustees yet, we're talking 2012 or 2022 or 2023. So we're within 10 years, but further out than 5 years. And one is a student center, and then a liturgical performing arts center, because basically they don't have either of those at this point. But again, that's well out in the future, over 5 years, perhaps within 10 years, but we're not even before Board of Trustees approval for those projects yet.
I understand that the playing fields are impervious, or did I misread that?
I don't know how they treat playing fields. They are.
Yeah, they're a drain-through field with a stormwater system that's beneath the field.
So is there anything that you can't comply with that was, are you planning to do a traffic impact study then?
Oh, I guess we need some waivers. I'm sorry. Good point.
Jim, why does the picture of the building look so different from the drawings? Unless it's just the deception of looking at an aerial shot?
Which picture?
So when we look at this campaign piece, Our Time to Inspire,
yeah.
the front of the building looks straight and flat.
yeah, it's
and in the
not.
picture, it's diamond.
It's not. It is.
So this flyer is kind of conceptual.
Yeah, and I think that flyer may have been done before we actually designed that building.
Okay.
Yeah, let me check here. Obviously, we would ask for a waiver of transportation impact study. There is no increase in enrollment, no additional traffic or anything being proposed. The building will be 38 feet in height or less. Looking at Roger's zoning requirements, we're going to comply with all that. We have, I noticed that rights-of-way or easements and drainage facilities, utilities must be shown on the plans, that we're intending to comply with that. Yes. Location of all fire hydrants, obviously, we'll comply with. We know what the cost is for development, and that will be complied with. Again, this is a preliminary plan. We'll do all the stormwater calculations for final plan. We do comply with the impervious calculations now. We need more details for sanitary sewer. The relocated sanitary sewer must be a minimum of 8 inches. My understanding is that's acceptable.
So number 2, does that mean that this current design accounts for additional 1668 that was already in place? I'm a little lost on number 2 with the Connolly Center grading permit. So that additional impervious, is that something
that should be already included in the plan, I believe, Roger, right?
Is that something that was delayed until now? Like,
Yes, there was
kinda like
an extension of a patio because there was, I believe there was water getting into the building and they wanted to reconstruct the patio. And it was over the threshold for stormwater and they knew that they were coming in with this
Okay, so it
program.
was pushed off
So we had
until this.
asked them as a condition of that permit that when they come in, they add that square footage to the systems here so it's
Sure.
more of a comprehensive system.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah, and just looking here on Amy's comments, she does mention the transportation impact study. We would ask for a waiver on that. And her other 2 and 3 comments, I don't believe we need a waiver on that. It's just something that the board could ask for. I don't think there's any need for it, but I think she's noting that the board could ask for additional cartway or additional right-of-way if they wish. And then she does mention about the on-site circulation for emergency access that we've talked about.
For Sue's benefit, talked about complying.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Right. And on number 5 on Amy's comments, they talk about a handicap ramp. Are we okay with that? Yes, we are. Yep, we're okay with that too. And then Ray Daly's comment deals again with the emergency access. And we feel confident. Amy, you heard what we're proposing. Do you see any reason that would be a cause for concern about the circular or some sort of entrance?
No, I felt that that's something that could be handled during the final plan development.
Okay.
Any other board comments or questions?
Yeah, I have one regarding the emergency access route. The road along the back of the property seems very narrow. I was wondering if when you consider this, if maybe coming in off of the one at the intersection of either Godfrey and Sproul or the one that's a little further back, those roads appear to be wider and it might be easier for emergency equipment to navigate that.
This one off of Godfrey?
Yeah, that one seems very narrow.
Oh.
I was suggesting looking at the possibility of coming off that one or the other one and then
Yeah,
kind
we
of
would have to-
scooting over.
We would have to come through this way, I guess. I don't know. Again, it can be done. I don't know if they want something closer
Yeah.
or easily accessible.
I'm not sure that would work if you go all the way around the building, because if you get up around the backside, you got to go through that circle, and then you got the bus routes, and you got 2 lanes through there. I don't know if that would work, Kath, coming all the way around like that.
Yeah, I would guess.
If you're familiar with the layout of the buildings, going around the back,
Well-
it's where the school is, and then you're,
No, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking at the, off of Godfrey, the next road to your right, that one.
This one here? I
Yeah,
don't know
it's
how
right
we-
in front of,
Yeah, but we still have to get back there somehow.
wasn't it along that side? On this one it is.
You mean this one here?
Yeah. The
Make it-
placement of the
At the
building.
Y, make a left. I mean, you're doing this,
Oh, you mean to get in?
yeah, just make a left to come in that way.
That may be a possibility too.
Yeah, that's the shortest point.
Right. Yeah, and it looks like it's.
Yeah,
it's-
that's
slopes
more of
are better there.
a space that you use, though, isn't it, for the grounds? You don't really use the rear grounds, but you use the front grounds.
I believe this can be handled outside of the meeting if we
Oh,
want to.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a suggestion.
Yeah, I don't want to tie their hands as far as, like, land use goes.
I wasn't intending to, it was just a suggestion as to looking at where the placement of the building and the width of the roads, that maybe second driveway there appeared appeared to be better, but also the property is a little less sloped at that point. than what it is off the back.
Any other,
Yeah, I think we're
Questions?
confident that the
Yeah,
the
they'll work it
engineer will
out.
work something
Yeah.
out on that one. My one question is about the right-of-way. Amy, can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think if we wanted, the township wanted more roadway width or something, we've got like structures that are at the corners, that kind of the corner of Godfrey and 320 that would be in the way. You know, we would have to be moving gates and things like that if we wanted an extra lane. Am I right? Or?
I do
That's
recall
unlikely.
this discussion the last time they were in here for land development, and my reason for pointing it out is just because it is included in the CELDO, and it would be remiss if I didn't point it out. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's something that should be taken into consideration or addressed.
So we don't need to really discuss that.
I think what you could do is if you want to recommend against that during your recommendation, you can forward that to the Board of Commissioners. Just for what you just said, because there's structures in there that would be
Yeah, it's
in the
not like
way.
it's open,
Right.
available
Right.
space.
And if in the future, quite frankly, the township has at its disposal the eminent domain, so that they could, if they needed additional right-of-way, they could get it, so.
So I have a couple of questions. One has to do with Roger's letter number 3 under zoning on page 2. They already have the planned institutional district, so they're not, it's not an application to establish the planned district, right? We're just saying that we want their long-range plan? And you're going to will comply on
Yes,
that?
that's required under the PI.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's.
The wording was awkward. I was trying to, you're not
Yeah.
establishing anything. This is
No,
already
no,
PI.
No, yeah, we're willing to comply with
That's what I
that.
thought.
We should have had that for you before this, but.
Okay.
Again, that's why I went over, we did have this,
And then,
that I.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
wording
Well,
right
so-
out of the ordinance.
yeah, no, it's just awkward wording,
Yeah,
right.
but it's
okay.
right out of the ordinance verbatim.
God bless it. So on Amy's letter, number 3 on page 2, am I reading correctly that Godfrey Road is required to have a wider right-of-way and cartway width than Sproul Road? If I look at comment number 2 and then comment number 3, I'm reading that Sproul's supposed to have a 50-foot right-of-way and Godfrey has a 60?
Well, I believe it's a PennDOT road, and some of the PennDOT roads don't have a right-of-way identified for them, and Sproul happens to be one of them, whereas even though Godfrey is a state road, it's a lower functional classification, so Radnor Township was able to go in and identify what the right-of-way should be
Okay.
for that.
All right, so definitely not going to want to, you're going to do a will comply on the right-of-ways, correct?
On the right-of-ways, we're.
Will comply.
Well, it depends if the Board of Commissioners, obviously, we don't want to grant any additional cartway or right-of-way, but it's not a waiver requirement. It's as Amy pointed out, is something in the code that the Board of Commissioners can require if they so desire.
Okay, well, knowing how heavily traveled Godfrey has become over the last 15 years, I definitely wouldn't, I would want us to make a recommendation that we ask for that right away. Just, we may find ourselves needing a turn lane on Godfrey in the future. And I wouldn't want us to constrain ourselves in not at least having the Board of Commissioners ask for this. So that's one thing. The other thing that's missing off of the plan, and I, with all due respect, you know, that you're not going to increase student size, and I appreciate that. You know, you're building a building. I'm thinking you'll end up hiring at least a couple of more teachers, which is fine. You know, you're clearly under the impervious. I don't see parking calculations on here. And why that catches my eye is that I have no way of knowing if, for the amount of buildings and the number of students and for your current big workspace and meeting space, if you even currently meet the code for parking. I just don't know. But why that caught my eye is that on your long-range plan, you're going to be eliminating a parking lot next to Lawn Fall in order to build your liturgical and performing arts center, which then that will have increased parking because it'll be a gathering. And you're not required to do that now, and I understand that. But it did kind of put in my mind, what's the status of, have they met the parking, the current parking on this plan? Do we know that, Mr. Phillips, or could we ask for that? Should that be on the plan? Even just to confirm that as this building, as the school is currently sitting with the current number of students and, meeting space and all the various parking things that we have, that they have enough parking for what they're doing now.
Yeah, I don't have that information in front of me. We can take a look at that.
Okay. I seem to recall it was a bit of an issue. You guys had a plan a few years ago when you ended up putting the fields in this front. Remember, prior to that, there was a different plan that kind of went away. And I remember that some of the constraints of parking existed, gosh, it's probably going back 5 or 6 years now, maybe more. So, Roger, I guess I would just say I think that we ought to ask for confirmation that their existing parking is sufficient.
Yeah, I know from a practical standpoint, there is absolutely no issue regarding parking.
Oh, good to know. Then the parking number should work out.
Any other comments, questions? Before we open it up to the public? Okay, any public comment this evening? No public comment?
I would recommend that we put it forward to the board for preliminary approval
And is there a second?
with the will complies.
But with the will comply, right.
What about the waiver on the parking, the transportation study?
Yeah, I would recommend, because it is for the existing students, that we grant that we recommend granting that waiver.
However, I would like to see parking numbers on it.
Yeah, is that a final approval thing, Roger? Having to put the parking on this plan?
Well, it's a zoning issue, so if they can't comply with it, they'll have to deal with
Okay.
whatever ramifications.
So we
that's
don't need
another
to
one.
mention it.
Yeah.
Will comply, right? Okay.
Yeah, they have to comply.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Or go to zoning.
Right.
I'd second Regina's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, any general public comment? There is none. Any old business? None? Any new business? None. Okay, we're adjourned.
Wow, thanks.